Welcome to the Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii Triple Celebration Buddhist Education Series. My name is Jen Kurohara, and I will be your MC today. It is my honor to introduce today's lecturer, Professor Mitsuya Dake. Professor, Faculty of Intercultural Communications, Rukoku University, Kyoto. Professor Dake is on the faculty of the Rukoku University's Graduate School of Intercultural Communications and was the director of its Center for the Studies of South Asia from 2016 to 2022. At the head of International Division of the Center for the World Buddhist Cultures, the head of International Division of the Center for the World Buddhist Cultures, 2017 to 2022. He was also the Dean of Religious Affairs at Rukoku University from 2020 to 2022. He received his master's degree from Rukoku and has completed his PhD courses for literature. His area of research include Shinran's thought, engaged Buddhism, and interfaith dialogue. He serves on the editorial board of the journal Contemporary Voices of Dalit. You can correct me if I mispronounce that. So today's topic is development of Jodo Shinshu in Japan and Hawaii, part 2. Today's lecture will be conducted in a Q&A style. I will pose the questions and the lecturer will provide the answers. Feel free to share any comments or thoughts in the chat box as we proceed. Please note that we may not be able to answer or pick up all questions due to time restrictions. We will do our best to address as many as possible within the allotted time. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Professor Dake, and he has a presentation for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Jen. And thank you, Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii. Allow me to this special occasion to give a lecture to the delegates of the Hongwanji Sangha in Hawaii. In my last lecture, I did kind of overview of the history of the Jodo Shinshu, starting with the life of Shinran Shonin, and then the historical development of the Hongwanji. Today, I'd like to focus upon the more modern and relating to the Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii. I'll give maybe 40 minutes on that topic, and then I would like to the kind of conversation Q&A session too. So today, I'd like to talk on the topic of the history of the overseas mission of Hongwanji in Hawaii. Are you familiar these two faces? I'm sure that they are pioneers of the missionary in Hawaii. As you well know, the left-hand side is Kagai Soryu, Reverend Soryu Kagai, and right-hand side, very famous, Reverend and Bishop Emil Imamura. Today, I want to introduce you about the background, historical background, why they went to Hawaii and started a propagation of Jodo Shinshu teaching. Well, a little bit, again, the history of Japanese history, but the late 19th or maybe the middle of the 19th century, historically speaking, the last part of the Edo period, there's so many conflict and turmoils among Japanese society. Well, I'm not going to talk about that much. Last time I mentioned a little bit about the situation of Hongwanji during the Edo period from 17th century through the middle of the 19th century. So with the Meiji Restoration in 1868, Japan entered a period of rapid modernization. But it was also a time of crisis, whereas it had patronized Buddha Dharma in the past, especially during the Edo period. They had a policy that is that they patronized the Buddhist teaching or Buddhist temple. But on the other hand, they had so many restrictions to the Buddhist temples and Buddhist activities. So after the Meiji Restoration in 1868, there was a very difficult time for the Japanese Buddhism. So the new government, well, they had a policy that support the traditional, indigenous. They try to change the government, and for that they need the figure who lead the Japanese state, Japan state, and that was the emperor, and they tried to idolize the image of the emperor, and together with that they used Shintoism to the emperor is the only one lineage in our country, and he's like the descendant from the gods on the heaven, which is called the Takamagahara. But anyway, with that policy, the Buddhism, on the other hand, was kind of oppressed. So we call that the Haibutsu Kishaku, abolition of the Buddha Dharma and destruction on Buddhist images and temples. So the new government adopted a strong anti-Buddhist attitude and a movement to eradicate Buddhism and bring Shinto to ascendancy arose throughout the country. It was precisely at this time that the 21st Monshu Myonyo, you may not know his name, but he played a very important role at the beginning of Meiji period in Hongwanji history. So he succeeded the position. He was still young. So this is the kind of the pictures and remains of after the Haibutsu Kishaku, the abolition of the Buddhism at the beginning of the Meiji period. All these Buddha statues traditionally the Japanese people worshipped were destroyed or burned. The statue of Ashura, this is very famous Japanese national treasure Buddha statue, but it was like this, and they're saved. The left-hand side, these Buddha statues were destroyed, and also the temple were burned. So this is the picture of the Myonyo Shonin. He succeeded his father's position, I think just before the Meiji restorations. Once he became the Monshu, he had to somehow, work with the situation. So Myonyo Shonin, he was the 21st Monshu of Hongwanji, and he was supportive to the new Meiji government. So he tried to be very good with the important people of the new Meiji government. Not all of them are anti-Buddhist, the people. Especially those the members who from like Choshu, that is the Yamaguchi, and the Hizen, that is from Saga and Nagasaki, or Tosa, that is from Kochi. Some of them are very devoted Jodo Shinshu, the members. So he cooperated with them, and he was also enlightened person to introduce the modern thought and system or institutional, the system in Hongwanji. So at the beginning of the Meiji period, he sent some young ministers to Europe. He also built, reorganized the traditional, the Hongwanji educational system, and he built the new school building of Daikyoko, today's Ryukoku University Omiya campus main building. And also, this is a very interesting point, but he wanted to move his office from Kyoto to Tokyo. So he did that in 1887, but in the long run, he had to come back to Kyoto. So that is why still the Monshu is in Kyoto. Maybe if he stayed in Tokyo, well, Tsukiji or could be the main office of Hongwanji. The reason is because he knew that the emperor moved from Kyoto to Tokyo, and Tokyo will be the center of the future Japanese country society. So he wanted to join that movement. And later on, also Ryukoku University, part of Ryukoku University was moved to Tokyo for maybe 4 or 5 years. So that is the situation, and also relating to what Mitsuya Shonin did at the beginning of the Meiji period. And he set the foundation of he said the foundation of the overseas mission of Hongwanji. So I say the historical backgrounds of the overseas mission of Jodo Shinshu after Meiji Restoration. Mitsuya Shonin did lots of things to modernize the Hongwanji, and one thing that he did was the modernization of the educational institution and the human resources development. So reformation of the Buddhist education institutes. Hongwanji had educational institutions, the central educational institution in Kyoto, which was called Gakurin, which is the origin of today's Ryukoku University. But that is the educational institution for all monks, ministers, to educate the ministers. And also at that time, during the Edo period, there are many private schools all over Japan for the ministers, and also for lay people. Lay Jodo Shinshu followers. And so he reformed. He reformed the Hongwanji educational institution. And also he sent the oversee, he sent young Buddhist ministers to oversee. And second, and he supported expanding the international network. And among these young ministers who learned overseas and also who were versed in the modern idea, they started to reformation of the Japanese society, and all these groups, they organized various kind of groups, and among them they were at the institute established by Myono. We called that institution Daikyoko, Daikyoko, and the student of the Daikyoko, they organized the overseas missionary groups. It's about around the 1880s, after maybe 20 years later, the Meiji Restoration, they started organizing the overseas missionary group. And also they did corresponding with the overseas Buddhist, not only in Asia, but also the West. And they did more kind of engaged the Buddhist social, activities. So they vitalizing the association speech and social activities. So they published the journal and newspaper, both in Japanese, and surprisingly, they published the English the text too. And also they engaging in social reformation activities with Buddhist spirits. So there was right after the Meiji Restoration, there's a crisis that maybe the Japanese Buddhism perished, but at the same time they took, because of that, the ministers and the members, and also the Monshu, they try to catch up the date, and also they try to reform the traditional and conservative idea, which is spread out among during the Edo period that lasts for 260 years. So they had a lot of things to do, but they are very progressive at the beginning of the Meiji period. So these are another pictures, which are the main figure at that time at Hongwanji. The right hand side, this is the Shimaji, Mokurai Shimaji, and this is the Renjo Akamatsu, and this is the Tetsunen Ozu. They're all from the Choshu, from Yamaguchi. And as you may know, there's many the Japanese immigrants to the US and Hawaii and the California from Yamaguchi prefecture. At the beginning of the Meiji, these young ministers were very progressive to reform the Hongwanji, and also they are very supportive to the overseas mission. And well, after 40 years, they became like this. They get old, and they all became the bishop of Hongwanji for certain period. So this is the history of the some, example of the young Jodo Shinshu minister who studied overseas, who sent by Hongwanji to study the modern the Buddhist studies. In 1872, Mokurai Shimaji and Renjo Akamatsu, those two of the figures from that three peoples, they were sent to Europe. And Akamatsu, he spent 2.5 years in England. So they are well versed in English. It was 1872, really early stage of after the Meiji Restoration. And so most of the foreign visitors who were interested in Buddhism, they quite often visited Hongwanji, not only for learning Jodo Shinshu, but they are kind of curious about the Buddhist teaching. And then they usually visit the Hongwanji, and they met like Reverend Renjo Akamatsu. And there's another people who 1881, Doryu Kitabatake, he went to Europe and the US and India, and Ryoho Soga, England, and Ryo Fujishima, he went to France. Because of France, at that time, France, there was a very famous French scholar who specialized in Pali text and Sanskrit text. And also Junjiro Takakusu, he was the classmate with Emio Imamura. And he studied in Europe and Oxford, and he worked with the very famous scholar in Eastern religion, whose name is Max Muller. So he studying with him. And Koyu Sonoda, probably you may heard his name. He's the first bishop or first director of the Buddhist mission of North America, today's BCA. And he assigned as the BCA bishop 1899, and then he spent 1 year, and then he went to Europe and studied the Buddhism and religious studies in Germany. And later on, he became the president of Ryukoku University. And Kentoku Hori, he also he succeeded the position of the director of the Buddhist mission of North America, and he studied at Harvard and became a lecturer of Sanskrit major of Tokyo University later. So many young ministers of Jodo Shinshu went to overseas to study, and they play a very important role, not only in the religious sphere, but also the academia in Japanese in Japan at that time. Well, so this is the picture of the today's the left-hand side. This is the picture which was drawn in 1879 when Mionyo inaugurated the Omiya campus. And right-hand side it is today's Ryukoku University, and the background of my screen, the picture on Zoom is from this. Okay. So how like a Reverend Kagai or Reverend Imamura, were interested in the overseas mission, or why they did that. There's a background. They didn't do 1 day, but they spent a time in that atmosphere of the early the Meiji period. So at that time there was already they started to organize or expand the international network. So the background is that they had a very anti-Christianity sentiment because during the Edo period, that was one of the tasks that the Buddhist the ministers had to do. And when the Meiji Restoration, after the Meiji Restoration, so they've tried to find their role to protect the Japanese society from Christian mission. So at the beginning, they had an anti-Christianity sentiment, but later on, they understood Christianity, and they didn't accept that, but they know how to respond to the teaching of the Christian, the missions in Japan. So here I say that it is the non-sectarian activities. That is because all Japanese the Buddhist group, not only Jodo Shinshu, but the Zen, Jodoshu, or Nichiren, or Tendai, or Shingon, Hosso, all Japanese, the Buddhist, the sect, or suffer by, this rapid, drastic change of society. So they are united. During the Edo period, each sect has their own way to do, because the Edo shogunate government told each sect, you should not, conflict with the sect. Just do and do the missional work among your sect and the study and focus upon the studying the teaching of each sect. Personally, they had a connection, I believe, but as the institution, they have no official connection each other. But at the beginning of the Meiji Restoration, because of the Haibutsukushaku, the abolition of the Buddhism movement, they had to unite. So all these activities is kind of non-sectarian activities. And how the Hongwanji, the overseas mission started. I'll just briefly introduce the history. The 1873, Kocho Ogurusu was sent to Shanghai to propagate Shin Buddhism in China. Reverend Kocho Ogu did not belong to Nishi Hongwanji, Honpa Hongwanji, but Otani Hongwanji. But this is probably the first occasion that the Japanese minister went overseas to do mission. And 1886, Nishi Hongwanji sent Reverend Tamon Sokumyo, Sokumyo Tamon, yeah, the Tamon is the family name, to Vladivostok of Russia. We say Vladivostok, but Russia. So because there are many, Japanese, the merchant, Japanese traders, and also their family in the northeast, the Asian continent. That is the Enkaishu we used to call, but this is the Vladivostok. So this is their first, activities, the historical event that Hongwanji sent, officially sent minister to oversee. On the other hand, among all those students who study new school, Daikyoko, and they studied new school, which is called Futsu Kyoko. It is the kind of general college. So those students, and also this college accepted not only the ministers, but also ordinary people. So all those ordinary people who want to study higher education, they came to this school, and some of them became a minister, and they organized like a Hanseikai, the Temperance Association. This is kind of the Christian or Protestant movement, but actually they did not only the temperance, but also they did more social reformation activities. And also, this is very important, they organized Obe Bukkyo Tsushinkai. This is the association of corresponding with Buddhists in the West. So they had many letters from the overseas, not only in Asia, but from the West. And they say they're interested in Buddhism, and some of them are asked them to please send our minister to like East America, the American continent, like Boston. So so they have a communication with this group. And 1888, they established the Kaigai Senkyokai. This became the kind of the group that's led many young the Japanese the Jodo Shinshu minister to go overseas. So Kagai, he was the member of Kaigai Senkyokai, and also Imamura, he was the one of the member of this Kaigai Senkyokai. Okay, and they also did, as I say, many the Enlightenment movement of Japanese society. the association speech and social activities. Well, I will skip, but they published the journal like Hanseikai Zashi. And also, oh, this is very interesting, but so this is the picture of the journal. This is the temperance. It was published in 1887. And right hand side is published. Also, they published the English version in 1897. So Hanseikai group, they did not only the temperance movement, but the anti-corruption movement, and also they did a reformation of temples, very traditional temples in Japan, and new Buddhist movement that is more socially engaged, movement. So some of them, they started the Bukkyo Seikyo Doshikai, that is the Buddhist Puritan Association. So they are very active to the social, problems, the poverty and orphanage, and and also some of them are started, Buddhist Salvation Army during this time. So this is the journal, the title, The Visual of Asia, was published 1888. This is probably the first English journal published by Japanese Buddhists, and then published this, and they sent all over the world. To the US, they already sent 65 copies. To England, 33, France, 5, India, and Chittagong Hill, this is the Bangladesh, and Ceylon, so that is the South Asia, 86, and Thailand, 5. And so they have already that kind of the connection or network. And so why they had that kind of the network? You see the right-hand side, William King Judge. He was the representative of the Theosophical Society in the US. This society was established by the Henry Olcott and Madame Blavatsky in Boston. But later, soon they moved their headquarters to Asia, to India. And in India, they established their headquarters in Calcutta. And there, and also before they went to India, they visited Ceylon, or today's Sri Lanka. And they met Anagarika Dharmapala. He was kind of revivalist of the Buddhist movement in Sri Lanka, and also he worked to recovering of the Buddhism in Indian soil, because in India, Buddhism was already gone. There's no Buddhist side, the mainland, the central part of the India. So the Anagarika Dharmapala, he went to the Buddhist site. Like today, we know there's a Buddha Gaya, and the Deer Park, and or eight very famous the places relating to Buddha's life, and he tried to recover the land ownership of the Buddha Gaya from the Hindu order. But even today, actually, it's a Hindu. It's belong to Hindu orders, but still there is a movement to recover the place as a sacred place for Buddhists. So all those people who belongs to the Taigai Senkyokai, Propagation Overseas group, they're very they became very close with the people who belongs to the Theosophical Society. Probably you may know that the Reverend Imamura, he invited Olcott to Hawaii, and Olcott gave a public lecture at, I think, Hongwanji or someplace, auditorium in Honolulu or somewhere. So why he did that? Because he already knew these people in Japan during these kind of activities. So 1888, Henry Olcott, he came to Henry Olcott, Anagarika Dharmapala, came to Kyoto. And then 1889, Reverend Soyu Kagai, who was a member of the Kaigai Senkyokai, went to Hawaii for the propagation of mentioning that, informing that our fellow Japanese immigrants are suffering in Hawaii, not only economically, but also spiritually. So hearing that as a member of the Kaigai Senkyokai, the member of the international propagation for the overseas, he decided to go Hawaii. And all these other members and also other groups in Japan, they supported to send him to Hawaii. And before he went to Hawaii, he met Shimaji, Reverend Shimaji. Now he was the bishop of Hongwanji at that time. And also he met the Mionyo. And they encouraged him to support and propagate Jodo Shinshu teaching among those of the Japanese immigrants in Hawaii. And also in 1893, the Japanese Buddhists, they sent the delegates to the World Parliament of Religion in Chicago. And so they tried to propagate the Japanese Buddhism among the Western people on the occasion of the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago. That was held on occasion of the Chicago Exposition. And 1896, Hongwanji started a Taiwan mission. 1894, Japan won the Sino-Japan War, and they owned this island, Taiwan, and they started official missionary in 1896. And this also started the mission in Korea and also in Hawaii officially in 1898. And then 1899, China, the Shanghai, and Singapore, and North America, they started in 1899. So this is the picture of the Henry Olcott, the Blavatsky, as I say. And these are the books written by Henry Olcott. You may know that this book, The Buddhist Catechism. This book was republished by the Fresno Buddhist Temple. And anyway, this was translated really early stage, late 80s, 89 or something. This Henry Olcott book was translated into Japanese. And you see these flags, you know this is the Buddhist flag. And this was devised by Olcott. And he did. And this is the kind of diagram of the group's the lineage. But you can see the handout. Probably I will share, or you have already I shared. Probably it's already uploaded in the chat, I believe. But anyway, so please solve this. And this is a picture of Reverend Chiezo Tokuzawa. He visited the Buddha Gaya. And this is the Dharmapara, and this is the Tokugawa. And he was also the member of the group. And this is a picture of when they went to Chicago World Religious Parliament. And this is again the same. And sorry, I always take time, but I just want to, maybe I extend a little bit more. I talk about who was the Reverend Soryu Kagai. So he was born 1855 as a son of the temple family Kotokuji in Bungo, today's Oita prefecture. He studied at the Gakurin. Gakurin was the school during the Edo period in Kyoto, and later on it became the Daikyoko. And Daikyoko, they had a branch of which is called the Futsukyoko, the General College. But anyway, he joined the Overseas Missionary Association, Kaigai Senkyoku. And then after he studied in Kyoto, he returned to Oita and continued study at the Toyo Gakuryu, a private school in Oita. Well, this Toyo group has a very interesting activities during the early Meiji, and they are very socially engaged. Anyway, 1889, he left for Hawaii mission and supported by Kaigai Senkyokai and Kyushu Bukkyo Club financially. And missions for Japanese plantation workers and prevent the Japanese worker from being Christian. Anti-Christian movement was still there. That was according to his diary. He mentioned that kind of thing, why he went to Hawaii. And March 2nd of 1889, he arrived in Honolulu and then established a propagation office in Honolulu and later in Hilo. October, he returned to Kyoto. So he spent only 7 months in Hawaii. But if we read his diary in Japanese, he was very energetic. He met over every day. He had a gathering, and he said that there was 100 people came and 70 people came. So it's amazing. I was very surprised how much he had energy to, and he visited, 4 or 5 Hawaiian islands. And then, but and the reason why he returned to Kyoto was he wanted to get the official support from Hongwanji. And that was one main point. And he promised that to the members who left behind. And so, but this Kagai's petition was accepted favorably at the beginning. But in the long run, it rang fell to get support from Hongwanji. So we don't know exactly why, but probably among the Hongwanji at that time, there was a kind of the power shift from the kind of progressive people to a very traditional and conservative, the politician at Hongwanji. So that was maybe the background, but we don't know exactly why. So he didn't return. He kind of disappointed. He didn't return to Hawaii. Well, that was kind of the tragedy for the early the Hawaiian Shin Buddhist the followers at that time. But there was some the already Japanese ministers who were also the born as the temple family of Hongwanji, but they were not that much accepted by the other people, I believe. And this is the picture of the first the office in Hongwanji propagation office in Honolulu, I think. And then in 1895, the Hongwanji set up the Office of Overseas Mission, Kaikyo Jimukyoku. So then they started propagation to China and Singapore and then Hawaii, and then North America. And then the representatives of Japanese immigrants pledged Hongwanji during that time. After the August left, there are some Japanese immigrant when they came back to Japan, they paid it again to Hongwanji to send ministers. So in March 1897, Hongwanji sent Reverend Eiju Miyamoto to prepare the overseas mission in Hawaii. And then in October of 1897, Reverend Shoi Yamada and Reverend Sanju Kaneyasu were dispatched as the first official ministers to Hawaii. And then in January of 1898, Reverend Honi Satomi was assigned as the first bishop of Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii. And then in February of 1899, Reverend Imamura Emio arrived in Hawaii, and both Reverend Satomi and Reverend Imamura was a member of the Association of Hanseikai, the Temperance Association of Temperance, and also Kaigai Senkyokai. And also Reverend Satomi was also Reverend Imamura's uncle. So there's many connection why Imamura. But the main reasons are because they're all very active in the mission or active and interested in the overseas missions. And as you may know, in 1900, Reverend Imamura was designated as the second bishop of Hawaii Mission. And these are some pictures. This is Satomi, and this is Imamura. And this is the first, I think, the Hongwanji, Honolulu Hongwanji in Hawaii Hongwanji in Honolulu. And this is the statue of Hongwanji. Well, and there's a many activity that, and probably and probably I think this occasion of the triple celebration of Buddhist Education Division, you had appreciation for the sharing the joy of the Buddhists together. But also the Hongwanji did the same, commemoration of the services last year, and the Hongwanji had the slogan, the life of Nembutsu enable us to appreciate every encounter. So these are the activities in the early Meiji period shows us how much we debt to all these, the ministers who are very active, both in Japan and also in overseas in Hawaii, and also in Hawaii. So I really would like you to know these activities, and please learn more about your the pharaoh ancestor who established all the Honpa Hongwanji temples all over the Hawaii Islands. And I really appreciate how they are enthusiastic to accept the teaching, and also to transmit the teaching to their children. And probably I prepared some more. These are some the pictures relating to Imamura. He studied the schools, right? And recently the Hongwanji, the mission to Hawaii, they studied the academia in the compound of the Hawaii, Honolulu, Hawaii Betsuhin. So I think it's a kind of go back to the beginning of the Hawaii the mission, but always it is not the same situation, and probably we have to like Imamura did, they have to adjust the sangha to the present situation and circumstances in Hawaii and also in Japan. Well, thank you all for listening to my lecture. I would like to stop here.
Thank you, Professor Dake. Right now we are open for questions. If anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat. If not, turn on your video, give me a wave, and I'll make sure to see you. So I have a few questions that were submitted earlier. I know you already mentioned about who contributed to the welcoming of Hongwanji in Hawaii, along with the Mahabodhi Society, Henry Alcott, also Queen Liliuokalani and Mary Foster. Do you have any more information about that?
Yeah. So Henry Alcott, he ordained, he received the precepts in Ceylon. And at that time, the young man whose name was the Anagari the Dharmapara became his group. And then after that, the Japanese Buddhist Society in Kyoto, they invited them to Kyoto, and they had the kind of the lectures tour. So during that time, I think over 100,000 people attended their public lecture, and also they agreed to accept the Union flag, the Buddhist flag, and so you will see that flag not only in Hawaii but also in Kyoto or in Japan, and probably Imamura, he met these two people in Kyoto. And they had a very close connection even after that. And that is why when Henry Alcott returned to the US from India, and on the way back to India, because at that time he lived in India, so he stopped by in Honolulu, Hawaii. And then probably Imamura met him, and he invited him to give a lecture. And probably I think according to the historical record, the Hongwanji became kind of the Hawaii branch of the Theosophical Society at that time.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to show another picture and want to, so what Imamura did, one of the things that Imamura did was he started English propagation department. He established English propagation department, as you may know. And so these pictures, the Reverend Ernest Hunt and Reverend Dorsey Hunt. So using the golden chain, and Dorsey Hunt, who composed that, a poem. So I think that Reverend Muneto, if he's in the audience, probably he has some information about that, golden chain. Yes, please.
Professor Dake, I am about to read today. Yes, Mrs. Dorothy Hunt composed the Golden Chain of Love for the children who were attending Sunday school. And both Reverend Hunt and Dorothy Hunt felt that in Hawaii, there must be something that all children can recite. Those days, Nichiren had its own, Zenshu had its own, Jodo had its own. So he felt that there must be something to be recited by all the children in Hawaii. That's why Dorothy Hunt composed the Golden Chain of Love. And in my view, that is the summary of A4 path, which is a Theravada way. So for many years, Golden Chain of Love was used in Honpa Hongwanji until 1945, 46, 47. And in 1970, adult members started to say that they want to also recite the Golden Chain of Love, which read, I am linking Lord Buddha's Golden Chain of Love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. So definitely this is for children, but adults started to ask for using this in the English adult worship service on Sunday. So here is some problem. Okay, that's so far,
Yes.
that's my statement that I'd be happy to talk more about that, about the problem.
Thank you, Reverend Neto. The idea of the composing the lyric of the Golden Chain is to allow not only the Jodo Shinshu people, but all Buddhists in Hawaii, they can share the Buddhist idea. So here is the kind of the issue that in Japan, the Buddhism was or is the majority of the religion in Japan, and at the beginning of Meiji, all the Japanese people had to belong to the certain Buddhist temple member. So all Japanese, in that sense, all Japanese were kind of Buddhist with a quotation, parenthesis. But anyway, during the Edo period, each Buddhist sect were separated. So they didn't, have the official connection with the Buddhist sect, like the Jodo Shinshu and Jodo Shinshu and sect. Well, there are private, relationship, but officially they didn't have that. But as I say at the beginning, they had to do that. I mean, they have to unite to, push back the oppression by the all those, Shinto movement. At that time, the Olcott, he came. He tried to revitalize the Buddhism in South Asia. In India, it's almost gone, right? That was a motherland of the Buddha. But even in Sri Lanka, under the colonization of England, the Buddhists were kind of oppressed. So they tried to liberate the Buddhist, idea and liberate the Buddhist as their own, the daily, the basis, spiritual daily basis. So they are very active. And then Olcott say, well, and then he think that Buddhists should unite. So that is the idea of the Buddhist flag. The Buddhist flag, you see the 6 colors, right? There's according to the one of the Buddhist sutra, that is that symbolizes the Buddhist, enlightenment. There's a 6 color, different color, like a rainbow. There's many colors, but as a whole, we call it rainbow. And there's a different colors in this world, but they are one. And actually, the Buddhist flag is the 6th color. That 6, the last color, supposed to be, we cannot express in the real color because it's reflect each other. 5 colors, they reflect each other and make one color. So that is the meaning of the Buddhist flag. And so that is the one thing Olcott wanted to do, and also it matched with the Japanese Buddhists. They will have to solidate each other to push back, and so that kind of thing happened. But as I say, in 90s when Kagai came back to Japan from Hawaii, Kyoto to Hawaii, the situation gradually changed. That is kind of another the historical dimension of the the history of the Hongwanji in modern time. And that
Great.
is, especially
So-
after the Sino-Japanese War. But anyway, I
Oh,
spoke too much.
thank
Yes,
you.
please.
No, we have a question from Mary. How were Reverends Ernest and Dorothy Hunt ordained, and by whom?
Well, actually, they have already ordained, I think, Theravada, I think, or yes. And there was the two people who worked for the English propagation department established by Reverend Imamura. There was the Reverend Tabi, that he was the first one, and he was actually he ordained as the Zen, not ordained, but they received the precepts. So he became the Zen followers. And I think we don't know much about, but probably he had some relationship with the Theosophical Society, or maybe these the Theravada Buddhism, and so the Imamura didn't pay that didn't care that kind of differences, probably, especially for the propagation for the English speaking the people in Hawaii. And so that's why he studied that department, and they're very active doing that. And they wrote, I think, the Sunday service text or this, and also the Golden Chain of Love.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Now, I have a question from
Yes.
Michael in the chat. So he asks, when did English services start after the war in Hawaii?
Oh, maybe I think I should ask the ministers in Hawaii. So does that mean that before the World War II, there's no English service?
There were, I believe, of course, Reverend Hunt and Dorothy Hunt were the ones who organized the English department. So Tapetsuin, I believe there were English services already inviting those who are members of International Buddhist Committee. Many Caucasian members joined. Yeah. So after the Second World War, gradually members of the temple started to come back to the temple. 1946 and 47, and I didn't make research in detail, but there were Nisei ministers like Reverend Newton Ishiura. Yeah, Reverend Newton Ishiura, then Reverend Shoujo Oi, Reverend Yoshiaki Fujitani started to become active in 1960s. So when I came to Hawaii in 1965, there were 80 to 90 members attending the 10 o'clock English adult worship service. About 250 Sunday school students are joining for Sunday service, both main hall side and annex side. So there are large members of Sunday school community those days.
Thank you very much for answering that question. We have a question from Reverend Charlene Kihara. Nyonya Shonin was Lady Takeko Kujo's father. He was such a modern thinker. Was he able to understand English?
Well, we haven't no record, but as I say, he was very progressive. I mean, enlightened person who were very keen to introduce the modern ideas and the institutional system to Hongwanji. So I think he understood, and he sent his son Kozui Otani. Kujo Takeko is the youngest, a sister to Kozui Otani. He succeeded the Myono Shonin, and he sent him to England. So Kozui Otani, he spent 3 or 4 years in England, and then and also he sent the Central Asian expeditions 3 times, and so he was also very much international personality. Yes. So
Okay, great.
I'm not sure that probably I believe.
Okay, so Michael says he wanted to know when all Hawaii temples had English services after the war, not just a few temples.
Okay, maybe Reverend
So,
Muneto sensei.
In 1947-48, Hiro of Betsin had its own English service for adults. I don't know what kind of ministers were working those days, but as far as Sunday school service goes, all the temples in Hawaii had their own Sunday school service for children. And there was a strong Sunday school teachers association. They were very, very active on Oahu, Maui, Big Island, Kauai, and so forth. And they had they made their curriculum with the guidance of Reverend Matsukuma, Reverend Aoki's son, Reverend Matsukuma, and they had various kinds of materials. Basically, the teachers taught life of Shakyamuni Buddha, teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha, life of Shinran Shonin, teaching of Shinran Shonin. Those were the main area of the educational material those days. Okay.
thank
All right.
you. Thank you very much. I hope that's good. Okay, so we have a question here. Education was mentioned with the establishment of the elementary and middle schools. Where were these located before moving to the Pali Highway site?
I think according to the history record, it was in the compound of Honolulu Hongwanji. Probably I think someone can give a more accurate information, but it was built next to the Hongwanji, and then in Honolulu, and then after that many other temple, but probably Hiro started before the Honolulu, but officially there was not officially started by, I'm not sure, the Hongwanji, but well, there was a school next to the Hiro, but then maybe after 2 years or something, they started the elementary school. So probably it's very similar to today's Hongwanji, probably the same place, maybe. That's a Pali Highway.
Okay, so apologies, Reverend Komuro, but half of your question is in Japanese. And
Oh, I can read it.
okay,
It's
but
much
he
easier.
says, thank you, Professor Dake, for your lecture. Could you explain more about why Reverend Kagahi Soryu failed to get support from Hongwanji?
Well, I'm not a historian, but lots of people sometimes say that because he had an influence of the Christian thought. He used the term God for Amida or something, but we don't have any evidence for that. But that indicates that probably, as I said, in 1889 he came back from Hawaii, and at that time the Hongwanji, the cabinet or the governors became very conservative. There's many issues. Kagai, he was born in Oita, and he attended a school, Toyo School, Engets Toyo's school. That is a private school. And he was, about the same time, he was forced to stop his lecture at Daikyoko. So there was an issue about that. And so he was one of the student to him. And so maybe it's not why so they don't know much about Hawaiian situation, but they are more like a domestic issue, I believe. But I also want to add that there is some issue about, since Reverend Muneto mentioned about the the golden chain has some problematic aspect, as it is kind of general Buddhist idea, not not especially for Shin. But at that time, there's an issue about the translation, how we translate Amida, how we translate the Jihi, the compassion. But at that time, they used the grace, or at that time, some texts say the load. Buddha, the Buddha was called Lord. That is also the Christian term, and also so there's some misunderstanding about the English term, and that still go on till when the Imamura started his propagation. There are some people who criticized his usage of the term, but well, we can tell from after the history, we can tell that. But at that time, probably the point that those people wanted to do is try to reach out the people. So they try to reach out, and so that is not their issue, but our issue today, if we think about that. So that is my position. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we have another question. Professor Dake, were the Japanese Buddhist overseas missions partly a defense mechanism in response to the rapid change and Christian missions in Japan? Can I conclude that from your earlier comment?
Yes. Yes. At the beginning, that was true. And as I say, it's developed. So at the beginning of the Meiji, the period, that when the Haibutsuki, the abolition of Buddhism movement occurred, they think that is a role for the Buddhism to protect the Christian mission coming into the Meiji era, right? But after 10 years or so, they started to understand, the Buddhism is more, modernization is equal to Westernization, and Western, civilization is characterized by scientific, idea. And then in 10 years or so, the most Japanese scholars and Buddhist, leaders think that the Buddhism is more scientific, and then they try to not to just criticize, try to take out the Christian mission, but they try to discuss, and they try to criticize from the perspective of the theological perspectives. And that's also we can find the Reverend Imamura. Reverend Imamura, when 1916s, in the United States, in the society, there are movements so-called Americanization, that is assimilating the American everything, so kind of nationalistic movement in America, in the US. And that time, for example, the Reverend Imamura, he insisted Americanism. What is the core idea of the America? That is the democracy. That is the freedom. And if we think about the freedom, you see the actual situation in the American society. There's a lot of disturbance. There's a lot of so he said the Buddhist idea can give the stable foundation for democracy. And then he called that Americanism. He tried to use that theoretical structure to propagate Buddhist idea. So some people may criticize, but still I see that is the kind of historically speaking, I can understand his way of, the propagation in the trend was in the thread of the Japanese Buddhist movement from the early Meiji period through early 20th century. Well, thank you.
Great. So he says, thank you for your elaboration. Okay, I have one here. This one. What kind of guidance should Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii continue to provide for the next 100 years to ensure a positive and prosperous future?
Well, although I wear my robe and I'm the minister, but I'm not the representative of Hongwanji. So I can tell on behalf of Hongwanji. I got the questionnaires and answer sheet before this lecture. And it said, what is your perception of Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii? And there's already answers from the, the attendants. And well, I see some very important the term which may I answer to this question. That is the Honpa Hongwanji Hawaii is trying to find and identify value of community. Well, I think this is the Richard, the very important point, but also it has that kind of negative aspect too. They say that traditional and becoming more progressive and innovative, that is needed for our Sangha in Hawaii. That is the one answer to this question. And I think, today I talk about the historical background of the overseas mission of Hongwanji in late 19th century. And that is, we can see those young, ministers and Hongwanji, leaders, they are very traditional, but also they are very progressive. And they did very innovating. So tradition is not just keep the, old customs, but, it could be more developed, customized. And so I think these, innovative tradition, we need a tradition and progressive, which is called, I think, innovative tradition. That is a very important point. We can learn from the activities of the early Meiji stage of Japanese, the Buddhist, and also those people, those ministers who went overseas to propagate Jodo Shinshu teaching. And I think that attitude, is also, resonate with almost the last part of his the main writing, Jodo Shinshu, that is the collection of passages of teaching and practice and realization. He quote a phrase from Chinese master Tao Zhou, and he said, "Those who have been born first guide those who come later, and those who are born later join those who were born before. This is so that the boundless ocean of birth and death be exhausted." I think this spirit is very important for us. And I think that is, well, I'm not sure that I could answer, but I'm not the representative. That is my own conception. Thank you.
Thank you, Rendake. Are there any other questions?
Hi, Jen. This is Judy Murmuro. I'm from Jikoing here in Honolulu. I just wanted to share about Muneto Sensei's comments about how hard the teachers, the Dharma Sunday school teachers worked. Because I was born in 1946, I think I must have been younger than 10 years old when I was attending Wailai Sunday school. which is now where the current Star of the Sea Catholic Church is. And when I used to go there to temple, I would say, oh, we're going to have lots of people in the temple today in the Fukuojo. But it was just us Sunday school kids. But the Catholics across the street used our parking lot. And so I thought all the cars were for our temple, but I guess being Buddhist, we shared that parking lot with the Catholics across the street. But that's just one thing. But what I remember in early elementary school, so it was in the 50s, when the Hongwanji would send the ministers, yes, I got to listen to Reverend Matsukuma, Reverend Shojo Oi, Reverend Izumi. I did like Reverend Kumagai because he didn't speak English, but what I remembered from him was he had kamishibai, and he would always tell us stories, and the animals made different sounds. You know, the dog didn't go bow wow. His dog went like wang wang or something. But we were learning Japanese, but also listening to English, but also, I guess that was Buddhist propagation, if that's what, you know, everybody's concerned about us younger ones learning Buddhism through in English. But yes, we learned a lot. And what also Muneto Sensei said, and what really strikes me is that the Hongwanji had a special speakers guild, and they had lay people that came to talk to us. And these people worked during the day, during the week, but on Sundays, they made time for us Sunday school kids, and they always shared stories because maybe the ministers were not available. So the Hongwanji, I think their leaders were very forward thinking, and not only depending on the ministers who mostly were from Japan, but going into their own community and reaching out and having their teachers, their everyday people, share the teachings with us. I don't know if that, you know, but that's what resonates with me as I listen to you talking about propagating Jodo Shinshu here in Hawaii. So yes, I can still remember when Fort Street went through and we had to cross the main temple to get across the street to where the Hongwanji Mission School is now. But also these leaders had very, very far-reaching vision, because where the bishop's house now stands, there used to be a rickety two-story building, and they housed young women from outside Honolulu. They were off island, and they were coming to study at the business schools, but not necessarily only going to the university. But these young ladies came from the outer island. That's what I remember, because they had a dorm lady, Ms. Okada, there. So the Hongwanji had many, many different facets. And then it's, you know, like evolved to the mission school and then to Pacific Buddhist Academy. So these leaders are very forward thinking, I think, you know, in adapting to the American or the Western society. So to that, I say thank you very much. Mahalo. Very grateful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I also want to.
Thank you so much. Michael says, thank you very much for sharing such a complete history of the Buddhist missionaries of the past. I am very impressed with the forward thinking and courageous efforts by the ministers of the past. Namo Abhinavutsu. Professor Dake, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, thank you very much. It was a good opportunity for me to, you know, study about the history of the Jodo Shinshu in Japan, and also overseas, you know, relating history in overseas in English. And I'm very thank you, appreciate for those people who prepare these opportunities. And I won't mention their name because so many people, I believe, you know, many the ministers who are working really hard to propagate Jodo Shinshu in Hawaii, and I really appreciate it. And especially well, today I saw the name of Reverend Umitani, the new bishop, and under his leadership. I hope this special occasion of triple celebration Buddhist, triple celebration of the Jodo Shinshu Sangha in Hawaii will lead the new stage, or well, not always easy one, but it's if we look back the history of the Jodo Shinshu in Japan, the Shinran Shonin, he didn't propagate in Kyoto, and only a small group were in Kanto, and Renyo Shonin set the foundation of today's Hongwanji, prosperity. But until 43, he was in a small room with his family, and at that time Hongwanji were very poor, and Hongwanji there was no people visited. That was in his diary. He wrote about that. But once he assigned as the Monshu, but he expanded the teaching of the. But also we should not forget, before those Shinran Shonin. In case of Shinran Shonin, it was the Honen Shonin. In case of Renyo Shonin, was the Zonyo Shonin, his father, the seventh, the Monshu of Hongwanji at that time, were set kind of the stepstones to establish the new, Sangha or movement. Similarly, Reverend Imamura set the kind of foundation of the Honpa Hongwanji mission of Hawaii. But before that, Reverend Kagai, or all those, the young Jodo Shinshu ministers in Japan, they played a lot, very important role. So as I said, on this occasion, so we should, look back again, or think about the words which I led before, but I did again. Those who have been born first guide those who come later, and we have to. And those who were born later join those who were born before. So that could be my conclusion of my lecture. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for attending today's lecture. I hope you found it informative and meaningful. If you are interested in our organization, please visit our website through the QR code you see here, or search Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii. Okay, so what is the triple celebration? It's the 850th anniversary of the birth of Shinran Shonin, the 800th anniversary of the establishment of the Jodo Shinshu teaching, and the 135th anniversary of Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii. The theme is sharing the joy of Nembutsu together, our living heart of gratitude. Keynote speaker will be Reverend Dr. Takashi Miyaji on September 7th and 8th of this year at the Ala Moana Hotel. The committee can be contacted at triple.celebration@honpahai.org, or just scan the QR code here in the corner. Online Buddhist Education Series 2024 YouTube video is available on the website. Again, you can scan the QR code. Next, Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii Triple Celebration Buddhist Education Series continues on Saturday, March 16th at 2 o'clock Hawaii time. The significance of establishment of Jodo Shinshu tradition. Professor Eisho Nasu from Rikoku University. You don't have to register again. We'll send the link to you. Donations are always appreciated. Please scan the QR code to donate, or you can send a check payable to HHMH, mail to 1720 Pali Highway, Honolulu, Hawaii 96813. This is in USA. Ah, hard to encounter, even in many lifetimes, is the decisive cause of birth, Amida's universal vow. Hard to realize, even in myriads of kalpas, is pure Shinjin that is true and real. If you should come to realize this practice and Shinjin, rejoice at the conditions from the distant past that have brought it about. From the Kyogyo Shinsho Preface, Collected Works of Shinran, page 4. Okay, and Jan Youth says, thank you also to our current ministers who serve tirelessly, rooted in the teaching. Thank you again for your time today. Please stay safe and healthy.